Hello, and a very good morning to our audience at home and also our panel. Will be joining us today. We have our 4 panels to discuss a little bit about the purpose of assessment in education. So will be joining us to my left, Mr. Nazmi, lecturer from University Islam Antarabangsa. Prof. Benjamin, Professor Madya from University Malaya, Mr. Syamir, lecturer from University Pendidikan Sultan Idris, as well as our analyst for today, Mr. RAFI, the publisher at Oxford. Yes. Okay, so we'll not be talking about a specific, in general of the assessment education, but we're going to talk about specific things inside the assessment, which is the purpose. Why do we do assessment? So, to be starting off, let's just start with our Mr. Rafi, our analyst. Purpose of assessment. Why? Why do we do assessment?
Okay. So good morning. Okay, for me, the purpose of assessment is to gather relevant information about student performance or progress, or to determine student interest to make judgment about their learning process. After receiving this information, the lecturer can reflect on each student level of achievement, so as well as on specific inclination of the group to customize the teaching plan. Continuous assessment provide day-to-day feedback about the learning and teaching process. Assessment can reinforce the efficacy of learning and teaching. Okay. It also encourages the understanding of teaching and learning as a formative process that evolves over time with feedback and input from students. Okay, this create good classroom rapport. The student assessment are necessary because first, throughout the lesson or unit, the lecturer might want to check for understanding by using formative assessment. Second, students who are experiencing difficulties in learning may benefit from the administration of diagnostic tests, which will be able to detect the learning issue, such as reading comprehension problem, and inability to remember written or spoken word, hearing or speech difficulties, and problem with hand-eye coordination. Third, students generally complete summative assessment after completing the study of the topic. The teacher can determine the level of achievement and give them feedback on their strengths and weaknesses. For students who did not master a topic or skill, teacher can use data from the assessment to create a plan for remediation. And lastly, throughout the assessment, the lecturer may also want to use informal assessment technique. Okay, for self-assessment, students can express what they think about the learning process and what they should work on. Using peer assessment, students can get information from their classmates and about what area they should revise and what areas they are good at.
Okay, so basically you're saying that the assessment in education is basically a two-way process. It's between the learning process and also the feedback process. So basically, it is to determine the level of students So they make plans for weak students and also for the students to know where their areas good at.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to our Prof. Madya, Prof. Benjamin, academic standards.
Yes.
Is that anything have to do with the purpose of assessment?
Okay. Before that, I would like to thank Mr. KHAIRI, our moderator for today, for inviting me into this forum. Okay. In my point of view, the purpose of assessment in education, I can say that it can protect academic standards. What I mean here is that grades from cumulative assessment are used to certify that a person of that student has the necessary skills or knowledge if the student itself doing it properly or appropriately to be awarded and for a qualification. By this, I think that consequently the quality, integrity of assessment itself is very important, essential, and it's very vital to make sure and guarantee that the quality of qualifications and the academic reputation of the issuing institution. It means that there is considerable local, national, as well as international concern to ensure that the ways we as an instructor or we as an educator protect the quality, the standards will stand up to scrutiny. Okay.
So you're saying that we do assessment to protect the standards of the academics.
Is correct.
Okay, so yeah, I kind of think. Okay, so moving on to our third speaker, Mr. Nazmi. Okay, we have discussed the academic standards, how we want to protect the academic standards. Now, let's discuss about the assessment draft instruction here. Okay. Can you talk more on that?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. KHAIRI. Okay. Talking about assessment draft instruction, actually it is something like a pre-test or need assessment informed instructors, which is what students know and do not know in the course. So if they done well in the pre-test or instructors, the information gathered will highlight the gap between existing knowledge and desired outcome. So because of that, an accomplished instructor must find out first what students already know. Then they use prior knowledge as stepping off place to develop new understanding. So by checking in with students throughout instruction, outstanding instructors constantly revise and refine their teaching to meet the giver's need of students. Okay.
I see. So basically, it's about what the students already know and what they are going to study and what you want to inject into the students' knowledge. Okay. So moving on, Mr. Syamir, the assessment in form of teaching practice, right? Can you talk more on that?
Okay, thank you, Mr. KHAIRI. First of all, a very good morning. From my opinion, the reflection on student accomplishment offer the instructor insight on the effectiveness of their teaching strategies. By systematically generating, gathering, and integrating evidence, we can determine how well our students learning in the class match our outcome or expectation. for the lesson, unit, and courses that they take in the class. The knowledge from the feedback that we receive indicates the instructor on how to improve their instruction in the class, how to improve their teaching strategies in the class, and what areas are well to be understood by the student, and therefore may be back contact in the future courses.
If I may ask, once you receive the feedback, how do you really plan the strategies once you receive the feedback?
Okay, from my opinion, the teachers must know how to improve their teaching strategies in the class. Once they find that their students have the difficulties to understand what they have delivered to the student.
Okay, so basically you're saying if you're dealing with the weak students,
Yes.
different approach must use.
Yes, yes.
When you're dealing with the good students, brilliant students,
Yes.
a different approach must
As a
use.
teacher, we must learn to our students also.
I see. Okay, so you have to learn about the behavior as well, I must say. Okay, so would you like to add something anymore?
Yes, thank you, our moderator. Alright, what would I like to add up into this purpose is that assessment informs student itself about their progress. Okay, which means that effective assessment will provide students with a sense of what they know and don't know about a subject, what they learned in the class. Okay, if the assessment done well, the feedback provided to students from the instructor or educator like us will indicate the student how they will are able to improve their performance. Okay, means that assessment itself must clearly match to the content, the nature of the thinking, and the skills which have already been taught in class. Okay, for what I mean here is that through feedback from the students given by the instructor, students become aware of their own capabilities, strengths, and as well as challenges with respect to course learning outcomes. Means that they have already noticed or aware what is their capabilities from what of they learn about the assessment itself. Okay, when the assessment done well, it should not be a surprise to student.
I see. But I want to ask you,
Okay.
you've been teaching for a long time
Yes.
since you started becoming a lecturer, and as we Malaysian, I would like you to comment a bit more about the effectiveness of the progress. So is it good or not? I mean, like, once you've done the assessment and everything, is it good locally? I mean, in terms of Malaysia, is it doing great?
Okay, thank you for the question. For what I can see from best, what I have teach for these past few years, I can see that students locally can perform well from best of the assessment given, but I can give that out of 10 rate, I can only give like around 5 or 6 because the quality is not there yet. Because I can see that most of the students, when they are given assessment, they are just doing it, okay, but they doesn't not really know what they want to do it. They just want to finish it and just submit it. That's it.
They
They
don't.
are inspired.
Yes.
They don't consider what is the outcome
Yes.
of everything they do. They just want to. Yeah, I think it's because our education system,
Yes.
where we too focus on the exams and yeah, maybe in the near future, a different approach can be used. Who knows?
Yes.
Okay. So moving on now, Mr. Rafi, certification. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Okay. For assessment, assessment is also have certification. Like I mentioned from my first point, another key purpose of assessment is to gather evidence to make judgment about student level of achievement and can specify the next objective. Students are usually assessed at the end of an element of learning, such as the end of the module, mid-semester, and end of the semester. They are awarded results typically as mark or grade to represent a particular level of achievement, whether it is low, high, or medium. This judgmental summative process formally provides the evidence to verify or certify which student may progress to the next level of their studies.
So that is the assessment in certifications. You want to gather evidence for the achievement of the students who did well and who did not do well. Okay. Mr. Syamir, the feedback for teaching. Was it right?
Yes.
Go on.
Alright, from my opinion, when the result from the summative assessment, we can help to track how our students perform throughout their courses. By referring to their result that they achieve, can help us to identify how well or difficulties or misunderstanding that they might have. This in turn allow you to change the way of your teachings and adjust curriculum accordingly. For example, you may identify that you need to give more explanation to them or provide additional resources just for them to make sure that they really understand from what that we have delivered in the class.
Should I just say anything about that, Prof?
Okay. Actually, from what Mr. Syamir said is now about feedback for teaching, right?
Yes.
Okay. What I can say is here that assessment can be feedback from the teaching, because by the way we're giving assessment, it's not only that we just only teach what to the student, what we want to deliver to the student, but by providing assessment, we can give a student more about their understanding, their knowledge about the subject. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Hazmi.
Yes.
Go on.
Can I add something about
Yeah, sure.
feedback?
Sure.
Because the feedback is a formative assessment, right? So the purpose of formative assessment is to provide student feedback on how they are going. So because our aim is to help students improve their performance and make their next piece of assess more better. So therefore, the feedback students receive is the key component of formative assessment. Feedback is intended to help them, which is the key component of the formative assessment. So feedback is intended to help them identify weakness and what we call it, build on strength, right? But build on strength to improve quality of assessment. So the focus is on comment for improvement, not in mark. So because suddenly students always overthinking about their marks, right?
Yes.
So that's
But the feedback from the students, do you think it is honest? I mean, like an honest feedback from the students, because like this, every student give us give the educators the feedback that we want. Because I've seen a lot throughout my experience where students can perform well in class. They manage to answer, they manage to do the work perfect.
Yes.
But when it comes to assessment, when it comes to exams, they fail. I mean, like, it's not that they fail, but they fail to manage
Yes.
like a specific target or something.
Yes.
So do you think that they give like feedback in the class? Is it the same? Like, is it honest?
Feedback in the class.
Yeah, like I mean, the feedback from students.
I think the feedback from student it is useful for the student because it is, yes, like I talking about, it is to improve themselves because suddenly the student, some student focus on the class, but some of them just a half an hour, so they just like
They don't take
yes
seriously.
they
doesn't
don't
matter.
they don't have focus.
They cannot focus.
They don't focus.
That's why we want to know their misunderstanding or difficulties that they have in the
Yes.
class,
I see.
so that they don't just attend the class and go back without knowing nothing.
I see. I see. So talking more about focus, I really like this point. Talking more about focus. Maybe Mr. Rafi can add up something. How to overcome the problem of focusing, student focus? Is there any methods that the educators can use not to, like example, like we learn history in high school. Like everyone say history is boring. Everyone wants to sleep in history class. How to overcome it?
For me, the lecturer can use their own style of teaching, like they have their own style of teaching that make the student feel fun while learning. Like don't use the method of teaching that only through verbal communication. Do some activities that make the student feel want to join the class.
Equal for
I see. That's a good. So, where are we? Okay, for the audience that just tuned in, today we have 4 speakers for a panel for us today. On my right is Mr. Nazmi from UIA. Beside him is Professor Benjamin from University Malaya, and also Mr. Shamir from UPSI, because like Idris, and also our analyst for today is Mr. Rafi. He's from the Oxford publisher, and I'm KHAIRI, your moderator for today. So, moving on now. When students' learning outcome are not met, we talk about assessment, how to reach through the students, how to reach for the weak students, for the strong students. But when the students' outcome are not met,
Okay, that's why what the topic of today is for the purpose of assessment. So that this is in the case when the student learning outcomes are not met. Okay, it means that accomplished faculty. I am giving sort of example over here. Okay, accomplished faculty focus on the data coming up from the assessment, which is given in the class. They complete before, during, or at the end of the course, which means that our instructor can give the assessment during the early of the semester, in the middle of the semester, or perhaps at the end of the semester. And this way is to determine the degree to which student learning outcomes are met or not met. So if students are off course early on, redirecting, reteaching topic, refer to student learning centers or reviews sessions by the instructor may remediate this kind of problem. Okay. Through careful analysis, it is possible to determine the challenges and weaknesses of instruction in order to support the way of learning to be more better. Okay. Some topics or concept is very difficult, am I right? Is you right? Some topics very difficult and understand. Some sort of the complaint comes up from student, and I think that there is a better way to resolve this problem. As Mr. KHAIRI mentioned just now, that you asked to Mr. RAFI, right? Okay, I would like to add up this now. So it means that perhaps there is more better way to help students to understand more on the subject that they learn. Okay, my point of view, first is by giving model, simulation, why not experiment, presentation, example or illustration, and this concept will clarify the student's problem. Okay, perhaps by spending a bit more time or going over a topic in another way will make it a very happening in the class, so it's not too boring. Okay. If the problem is noticed late in the course, an instructor may plan to make any instructional changes for the next time the course is taught, but it is helpful to make a note of the changes needed at the time so that the realization is not lost and end up providing good outcomes for the students.
Okay, but you're saying that if the outcome are not met,
Yes.
so student have to do this, student have to do that,
Yes.
do notes, do this. But may I ask you your opinion on the level of education in Malaysia? Because last time back in our days,
Yes.
mathematics used to be easy. But now even primary school students, mathematics, it's all new, all difficult. Even I say it's difficult for a primary student. So the changes that they made, do you think like this is the cause that makes students doesn't meet the requirement, doesn't meet the achievement?
Okay. For what I can see is that from based on my experience, these things happens because of maybe it comes from the student itself, because we cannot force student to understand what we are teaching, because some student is already gifted. Some student gifted, when they teach this one, they already get the point, right? But some student, they have to crawl from the bottom to the top, so until they reach what they understand about the subject they learn. So basically, we as instructor, we cannot force student to achieve that level.
Okay. So maybe in the near future we will look back at the syllabus.
Yes.
Maybe,
Yes.
because it's getting tougher.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, Mr. Rafi.
Yes. Okay, for me, assessment, so graph learning. What the graph learning means is what and how students learn depend to a major extent on how they think they will be assessed. Assessment practice must send the right signal to students about what to study, how to study, and relative time to spend on concept and skill in the course. Accomplished faculty communicate clearly truth. The student need to know what they need to know and be able to do. Both truth clearly articulated syllabus, and by choosing assessment carefully in order to direct student energy. High expectation for learning result in students who rise to the occasion.
Sure. Moving on. Syamir, over to you.
Right. Of course, in assessment, grade is important, right? So grade should be a reflection on a student on what they have learned as defined in the student learning outcomes. They should be based on the real evidence of student learning outcomes on the test, papers, presentation, or projects that they have done in the class. Right? So grade often fails to tell us clearly about the large learning, such as problem-solving skills, communicative skills, communication skills such as oral, written and listening, emotional management skills, and social skills.
I want to talk about summative assessment. Generally, summative assessment is generally be given at the end of the unit or course. It occurs only a few times over the course of the academic year. So the goal is to measure the mastery of learning standard. So I like formative assessment, which emphasize feedback, but summative assessment always yield a specific grade. So because they are broader in scope and measure learning over a longer time period. So therefore, summative assessment tend to feature a narrower range of question type, such as multiple choice, short answer, and essays.
Okay, so I think that's it for this session of our forum. So may I conclude? I think that from our discussion for today, the assessment in education is just basically a program which to improve the students' learning process. And as well as for the teaching process. That is the purpose of assessment in education. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you everyone.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course. Okay, thank you, Dato'.
Yeah.
Thank you.